Thank you again, President Xi, for this beautiful welcome. And tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. And we look forward to it. And I'd now like to raise a glass and propose a toast to the rich and enduring ties between the American and Chinese people.
Donald Trump big footing into China. It was like a Godzilla versus King Kong movie there with two of the world's largest economies. Definitely squaring off with each other this time in China. And Donald Trump saying, hey, come over and see America as well. As the meetings between these two leaders continues, we'll continue to bring all the news on that. We'll talk to Steve Bucci about that as well today. Chris, very momentous, historic times we live in.
Very momentous times. This is the first visit by the President of the United States to China in 10 years. And, a lot of people are criticizing the President, saying that he likes to cozy up to dictators, and they feel that he is being too nice to Xi Jinping, whatever the heck his name is. But, our good friend Vic Porcelli and Ken had it perfectly right this morning. We're both big aficionados of the Godfather movies, and I think Vic hit it right on the nail on the head when he said that he's using that famous line from The Godfather, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, and I think that's what you're seeing here with the President of the United States. The President did announce that that China has agreed to buy 200 Boeing jets as part of an economic deal. So maybe that is one of many that the president will bring back from China.
Yeah, that's a great analogy indeed. I mean, look, this is like a meeting of two of the five families, to continue the Godfather reference. And if you are a fan of those series, Chris and I have watched them many times, so has Vic Porcelli. Chris, you know that when these notorious gangsters, not saying that either one of these fellows, well, China's kind of a gangster nation, when they would ever meet, when these heads of these families would meet, they wouldn't walk in guns blazing and just start shooting at each other. It was a very surface level, professional courtesy kind of thing, but they were all there to get something from the others. And the reports are that Trump has been racking up quite a few concessions from President Xi. And let's remember, from the Biden administration, basically China was Hunter and Joe Biden's personal piggy bank.
And I also think, too, the president is putting on a different face in public than he is behind the scenes. I'm sure, as we know, President Trump is a very good negotiator, and I'm sure he's doing that behind the scenes. But I think he's trying to put on a public face of friendship here to keep the Chinese negotiators off track.
Indeed, yes, he is a guest in their land. You don't just walk in and start throwing things around and pulling the tablecloths off. And so, Donald Trump is. I saw a very interesting story about It was a story written by one of those folks that studies body language, and on nonverbal cues. And they said Donald Trump and Xi were like the lion and the cheetah kind of circling each other, and that Donald Trump had very much command of his presence. So I thought that was interesting to look at it, looking at the nonverbal cues and how they treated each other in these meetings. Steve Bucci will be joining us at 4:25 to discuss all of that. He is our international man of mystery, foreign policy expert. So we'll, of course, ask him about the importance of this visit, what he has thought about the coverage of it, and about China, whether or not China truly is indeed the number one existential threat to Western civilization these days.
One of the big points on the table besides the economic issues is, of course, Taiwan. The Chinese believe that Taiwan is a runaway province of theirs, and they want to eventually have it back under their control. There is a $14 billion arms deal that is scheduled to send Taiwan a bunch of weapons. The president still hasn't signed off on it yet, but Congress has approved that. And the president of China, he is trying to send a strong signal. He said a statement out today, said that if U.S.-China relations are mishandled, it could lead to clashes or even conflict, and that was pertaining to Taiwan. A lot of people are fearful that the president, Trump, is going to give too much away and give what China wants, which is a clue that we won't be there for them if they invade. Historically, The United States has said that they will support Taiwan, but it's very ambiguous. They don't know if we mean it or not, and that's kind of been the policy for the last 30 or 40 years. And the Chinese president wants the president to say, basically, we may not be support them if something happens. So that's probably the big issue on the table besides opening the Strait of Hormuz and the economic deals that may or may not happen.
Meanwhile, it very much appears that we are in another Cold War period. Secretary Wright confirming that the U.S. has ramped up its nuclear weapons production to Cold War levels. For all you youngsters, the Cold War was the period of time in the 70s, 80s, and 90s where there was a massive standoff between Russia, the old Soviet Union, and the U.S. We appear to be entering another Cold War period between China and the U.S., China pursuing an unprecedented military buildup, and it looks like the U.S. is ramping up our weapons production as well.
Yeah, one thing we'll also talk to Bucci about is the Pentagon canceled a deployment of a brigade to Poland. Of course, Poland is on the border of Russia. A lot of foreign policy experts are nervous about that. But I think it also may signal, and President Putin said the other day that this war may be coming to an end. The Pentagon and the president may be signaling that they believe that is true, and that's why they are taking this brigade out of Poland. A lot of people are fearful about that, but all that does is bring back the troop deployments in Europe back to 2022 because they were ramped up during the Ukraine war. So this is not as big a deal as the media and the left will tell you it is.
Russia has devastated itself over the last 4 years with the Ukraine war. They have not been able to accomplish their goals in that area. So maybe that conflict will be coming to an end. That would be great for the world. And we'll see what happens in the next few weeks with the hostilities in the Middle East, too.
I saw a report today, and this is just amazing to me. 2 independent sources have said that Russia has lost 350,000 soldiers, not wounded or maimed. These are soldiers that are killed, 350,000 people. That's 1% of our population. And I'm sure the mothers of those soldiers can't be happy about that. The people in Russia can't be happy that over 250,000 of their young men have been sacrificed in a thankless war. So I think the reports that we're hearing that Putin is under a lot of pressure from the generals and from the public is true. And he may be signaling, as he did the other day, that they want to end this war.
Yeah, what was it? Jim Talent, I believe, told us on Monday. It's been it's a horrific phrase, but it's true, a meat grinder for the Russian military. 25,000 troops on average per month are losing their lives. And, Chris, we've heard some stories recently whereby Ukraine is utilizing very advanced drone technology where they're not using human beings at all, but they're sending in drones and robotics to destroy Russian military men. And so the Ukrainians are using non-human inanimate objects and still taking out actual Russians. So I think the Russians at this point may have had enough.
Yeah, the Ukrainians have become very adept at drone warfare. They don't have long-range missiles, but they've been using those drones to strike deep into Russia. You remember a few months ago, they struck an Air Force base in Russia and destroyed a bunch of their planes. Just last week, their drones attacked some ships that were, in Russia, in the interior of Russia. So they are very, very good at drone warfare. And I also read somewhere that the United States and Ukraine are developing a drone program and are working together. So that benefits both of us.
So what are we to take? What are we to take away from President Trump's meeting with Chinese President Xi? What is the status of the Russia-Ukrainian war and the hostilities in the Middle East? All of that will be covered when we speak with Steve Bucci at 4:25.
And two, Tim, the war in Iran, people are kind of put that on the back burner with this trip to China of the president. But a ship anchored off the United Arab Emirates was seized and taken toward Iran by Iran today. And they also attacked a cargo ship near Oman. So I think this truce that President said last week that was about 1% capable might be coming to an end because the Iranians don't seem to be learning their lesson.
No, the president signaled that before he went on this mission with Xi, and he's not going to do anything while he's over there. But once he's back, I have a feeling the gloves are off, and the war is going to be ratcheted back up to extremely high levels. But we'll ask Bucci about that, too, in just a few moments. What will happen in Chris's Corner today at 4:45?
Yeah, I did a story last week on Anthony Fauci, and I've got a follow-up on that story. The Fauci story just got bigger and much darker, and I'll give you all the details on that at 4:45 on Chris's Corner.
We hear about some accountability. At 5:07, I have a piece that I've been saving, and it's a perfect day to have it because at 5:25, we're going to have Larry Behrens on from Power of the Future. Well, his boss, Daniel Turner, who we've also interviewed here many times from Power of the Future, I get his emails, and he wrote a really cool piece a few weeks ago. Our government comes after us with armed men if we don't pay our taxes. Now, the subject of the article mainly is about the simplicity that Americans are yearning for these days, but our government, our ever-growing government, does not let that happen. So, yearning for simple times at 5:07. And then the aforementioned Larry Behrens, Director of Communications at Power the Future, which is a trade association for folks in and around the energy industry. He'll join us in studio. Power the Future releasing a report uncovering a leftist billionaire-funded campaign to sabotage America's AI and technology boom. Chris, as we've talked about, people have a lot of questions about data centers, just like they've had questions for hundreds of years, anytime a big factory or a new infrastructure facility comes in, such and so forth. And that's fine. People should debate that. But it seems like there's a seedy underbelly to all this, and a lot of this is being promoted by leftist propaganda from outside our country.
Yeah, there's a huge vacuum of information that, unfortunately, one side's position is the one that's getting out, and it's turning people against data centers. They're acting like these are nuclear reactors and they're going to poison everything and be dangerous. Look, there should be some type of controls on them. But as I said yesterday, AI is here, and AI is dependent on America's economic and national security. And if we get behind on that to China, that could be very dangerous for our national and economic security.
And so many people don't realize that they use AI and data centers every single day. Joey is like a master AIer. Just look at our meme that he creates for us every day.
What do you think? You think AI is here to stay, you guys, or just a fad? Like there was this app where you could Simpsify yourself. You turn yourself into a Simpsons character. That's all I use AI for. I just turn you guys into different cartoon characters every day.
I thought you were calling us simps.
Yeah, of course. What does that mean? Did you learn some new Gen Z
I know
slang?
what simp means.
What's the history of that? What's the etymology?
A simp is a man who lets women control him, and he will do whatever to try to win the affections of a woman, and he doesn't care if he loses his self-respect in the process.
See, that's why I'm all for this age requirement thing for the porno sites that they're talking about in Missouri. Chris is learning too much about this stuff going on.
I got that
OnlyFans.
from the manosphere.
Oh, okay.
That's in the manosphere lingo.
Why are you listening to that stuff?
So I can stay a man.
Okay.
Check out our meme today. I'm not exactly sure why we are on top of a skyscraper with fire hoses, but maybe we'll figure it out at some. Oh, it's from Die Hard. It's a
you
Die
guys
Hard
are
reference.
cleaning out the gutters of Nakatomi Plaza in honor of our good friend Dave Sylvester and Gutter Pros.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You know, I do have a question. The meme the other day, Joey, Tim and I were in the Oval Office sitting on the Resolute desk, and I know this is politically incorrect language, but we were midgets.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you,
We were little people.
Yeah, why were we
Now,
midgets?
why were there baby bottles next to those midgets? Because you were babies. You were infants.
I thought I was a midget.
No, that was in honor of our good friends at the St. Louis Young Republicans.
Oh, okay.
You and your big suits that you would wear on Baby's Day Out at the White House, it was in honor of that.
Okay.
What's that
And
cartoon?
we were barefoot, too.
We were. What's that cartoon? Big Boss Daddy?
Big Boss Baby with Alec Baldwin?
Big Boss Baby. Big Boss Baby. Yes. I combined Big Boss with Call Her Daddy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
No, that's NC-17.
What websites are you going
That's
to?
NC-17.
Thank you for clearing that up, because I had nightmares that night just seeing Tim and I as midgets.
I'd like you to preface anything that you're about to say on the radio with, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but get the button ready.
Allegedly. Big sports weekend as well. St. Louis Cardinals back in town. Chris, I think you're going to game tomorrow night.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday night is the Stan Musial military bobblehead day, so I will add that to my Cardinal bobblehead collection. I'll have it right next to my Albert Pujols 720 bobblehead added to my collection, or I may do like Joey does and put it on eBay and sell it.
Very good. And many folks will be watching one of the they say there's 4 majors plus one. The PGA Championship teed off today in a club I've never heard of before. It's in the northwest quadrant of Philly, way out in the Philly suburbs, Newton Square, Pennsylvania. And I'm not sure I know how to say the name of this golf course. It's called Arana Mink. A-R-O-N-I Mink. Arana Mink. So it's Arana Mink Golf Club. PGA Championship is underway there. And you've got the Stanley Cup playoffs and so much and so on. So, hey, 4:21 in the PM. We're going to be speaking with Steve Bucci next about all the things that we discussed in the first segment of the show. The big China-U.S. summit, the hostilities in the Middle East, and the war between Russia and Ukraine. And we'll probably even go beyond that, because our international man of mystery can cover that and more.
And one last thing at the end of the show, shut up and act. A Hollywood celebrity has told his fellow celebrities just that. I'll tell you who that is. Joey probably already knows.
Jam-packed episode of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Stand by. Steve Bucci next here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dream of better lives, the kind which never hate.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A nice evening, but let's watch for some scattered storms in the morning, low 58 degrees, and then a high of 83 in the afternoon. The storm chances are mainly in the morning. Can't rule out a spot shower late in the day, but really mainly a dry afternoon and evening. 83 for the high and a little bit more muggy as well. Saturday, you notice the humidity and some off and on storms in the morning to afternoon and a high of 85. Sunday's the dry, hot day, a high of 90 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Stan Musial. He missed a season in his prime to serve his country in the Navy.
Honor a legend on Saturday, May 16th when the Cardinals face the Kansas City Royals. Fans can secure a Stan Musial military bobblehead presented by Coca-Cola and Deerbirds. This patriotic collectible celebrates Stan's Hall of Fame career and his service to our country. A true symbol of character on and off the field. A tribute worth displaying and remembering. Don't miss it. Get tickets and details at cardinals.com/promotions.
Some Sundays are made for the water. Sunday, May 17th, as the Cardinals take on the Kansas City Royals, make it a ballpark day too. That day, you can score a Cardinals boat tote presented by Coca-Cola and Walmart. A classic summer bag that fits right in from the dock to the dugout. It's ready for long weekends, sunny afternoons, and whatever plans you have next. Get tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This year, America turns 250, and News Talk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. News Talk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Duchenne High School, Bula Yomo, and Mobile Magic Auto Body. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs, attorney at law, has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs, attorney at law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
This Steve Bucci update is brought to you by Hydrodynamics. For all your lawn irrigation, outdoor lighting, drainage, hardscapes, and turf management, online at hydrodynamicscorp.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
According to a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Xi warned of potential conflict with the U.S. over Taiwan, saying it is the most important issue. Before that meeting, both leaders spoke of cooperation. Xi said the U.S. and China should be partners, not rivals. Listen to what Mr. Trump had to say.
We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you and you would call me. People don't know. Whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together.
Steve Bucci, visiting fellow for Special Ops at the Heritage Foundation.
Oh, yes. What were you about to ask me? Do you expect me to talk?
Steve Bucci, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing
Good.
fantastic. You ready to go around the world?
I will do the best I can to keep up with you.
All right. Well, of course, the president is meeting with the Chinese president, and they are discussing economic deals, Iran, Taiwan. I want to get your overall thoughts of what you expect out of this summit. And I also want you to address some of the leftists are afraid that the president will give away the strategic ambiguity policy that we've had with over Taiwan for many, many years. How afraid are you of that?
I'm not afraid about it at all. You know, look, the left constantly underestimates President Trump, and they really think he doesn't get all of the nuances that experts like all of them understand. And he's cut more deals than any of these people have ever imagined. And he knows how to deal with other big egos, big personas. You know, he's not over there kissing Xi's ring. He's there looking at him as an equal and say, okay, let's talk. Let's see what's going on here. He's not going to give away anything. So I'm not terribly worried about it. If I were Mr. Xi, I'd say this guy's different than all the other ones that have come over here. I better watch what the heck I say, or maybe I could get on the wrong side of this real fast. So I'm pretty comfortable with President Trump personally leading this part of the foreign policy bandwagon.
Steve, President Trump is saying that Xi pledged not to provide military equipment to Iran. And there's been other reports of other concessions that the president has gotten from Xi. But I guess my question, though, Steve, is does anything the Chinese or the Iranians or the Russians these days, even when they make these, quote, promises at these top-level summits, can any of it can we expect them to live up to any of these promises, or is it all just propaganda?
You know, I don't think we should trust any of these guys. They're chasing their national interests in the same way we chase ours. I think we try and tell the truth when we do it. In the three cultures that you just referred to, the Russian, the Chinese, and the Persian, they, you know, looking you in the eye and telling you a blatant lie is okay. So we should cut deals with them, and we should watch the heck out of them to make sure that, you know, either we don't care if they don't stick to it, or if we do, we need to watch them and have some sticks ready to be deployed in addition to the carrots to keep them on the path that we want them on. That's just common sense. You know, when you're dealing with other nation states, it's not like, you know, me talking to you guys about what time I'm going to be on the air next week. You know, there's a lot more at stake, which means there's a lot more motivation to try and pull a fast one if you can get away with it.
Speaking with Steve Bucci, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, the president said last week that the truce between the United States and Iran, or the ceasefire, was on life support. No one expects for military operations to happen once now that the president is in China. But just today, a ship off the United Arab Emirates was seized by Iran and taken back to Iran. And they also shot a missile at a cargo ship near Oman and damaged that ship. Do you expect military operations to begin once the president is back on American soil?
I'd be surprised if the military operations resumption waited that long. I don't think there'd be any problem at all for the president to give the Secretary of War the go-ahead to start taking out more of their targets at today. It's kind of a nice thing if he doesn't look like he's putting a sharp stick in Xi's eye, but I think President Xi would understand in a heartbeat exactly what the president's doing if he started the resumption now. So no, I won't be surprised at all if it starts as soon as he gets back or sooner.
Mm-hmm. Steve, because it seems as if the hostilities in the Middle East they've subsided. There's not like full-blown war going on. We haven't heard of any missiles being, landing lately in Israel or any of the other Arab nations, but it seems that the conflict is definitely hot in and around the Strait of Hormuz, and it does not appear to have a resolution in sight there. So the U.S., what are the U.S.'s options at this point in time? What would you advise them to do at this point?
I would advise them to bag these negotiations because I don't think they're being fruitful at all. I'm not against negotiations. I think that's the best way to solve things in most cases. In this one, the Iranians' continuous demands that are just sort of lunacy, like we're going to pay for all the things that have been broken and we're going to put them in charge of the Straits of Hormuz, and we'll take like a coffee cup full of enriched uranium and they get to keep the rest of it. That's not normal negotiating stances for a country that's just been beaten down with a big stick. So I think it's time to get the stick out again. The Trump administration has gone more than the extra mile to try and obtain a deal through negotiation that will accomplish the non-negotiable goals that the president and the Secretary of State have articulated. It's not going to happen that way. So I think we need to start hitting targets. Hit everything that moves in the Straits of Hormuz. Follow the trails back if they shoot a drone, and to determine where those drones came from. Take out all of those targets. I think I would at least have in the on-deck circle options to take Card Island, to use special operators or Marine special operations if it's a bigger target, or even the 75th Rangers, would be useful in this regard also, to get some of these bigger targets, something that's not, like dead center in the middle of Tehran or in mainland Iran. But those islands should all be on the target list, and then turn loose our allies, the Israelis, and give them the intel or additive intel to keep hitting leadership targets, to find all these folks, find which bunkers they're sleeping in, and turn those into tombs. These leaders seem determined to go down with the ship. I think we should try and get them there before the entire country goes down, because there's 80 to 90 million people that really don't want to go with them. And we should be thinking about those folks and not caring a whit about how many IRGC thugs survive the end of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Steve, the Pentagon announced yesterday that it's canceling its deployment of a brigade, to Poland. First, how many soldiers are in a brigade, and does this redeployment leave Poland defenseless against Russia?
Last answer first. No, it doesn't leave Poland naked in the briar patch. The Poles are very capable of putting up a pretty good defense. They have more capability than the Ukrainians do. And the Ukrainians were able to fight Russia to a standstill. I don't think Russia has the chutzpah to go after Poland, because Poland would fight a lot more effectively than the Ukrainians have. They have more modern weaponry. They are fully integrated into NATO. They are a pretty daunting adversary for a military like the Russians have, which, other than the nukes, which are not insignificant, Their conventional forces are subpar. A brigade's about somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 troops, depending on what type. Is it infantry, armor, that sort of thing? But neighborhood of 6,000 plus troops. So it's a pretty substantial combat formation. There's a couple of brigades in a division, for instance. A division's the next level up from that. There's anywhere from 2 to 5 brigades in a division. And then in an Army Corps, there's at least 2 divisions, some cases 3 or more divisions. So this is the first big combat formations commanded by a full colonel, and would been a big deployment for a training exercise, and for a long-term deployment, a tripwire kind of deployment. It's about the smallest you really want to do, because that's got to be something that's noticeable, big enough to get people's attention. A brigade is probably the smallest size you would use for that. So I'm not worried that this is going to send some signal to Russia that the green light to go after Poland. Anybody saying that is they're clutching their pearls and swooning right now with their hand on their forehead. That's not what's going on.
Steve, it appears that even though Russia has made some territorial gains into Ukraine, that they definitely have not been able to meet their original goals, Putin's original goals, and it's just been an absolute brutal war of attrition for them. The numbers are staggering as to how many troops that they have lost and continue to lose. And then, Steve, we've been hearing these whispers over the last week or so of a potential end to the hostilities. Steve, do you think Putin's looking to declare some sort of Pyrrhic victory in his own mind, trying to convince his people of that, and then back out of this conflict and wait for another day?
If Putin were smart, that's what he would try and do. He could try and do some propaganda jujitsu and convince people that he really won, when I don't think he has won. I think he's been kind of embarrassed by the whole thing. But it's, Lord knows, the Russians, even with their massive army and the massive manpower pool that they have, can't do this forever. The Russian people are going to say, hey, this is enough. And Putin's buddies, all the oligarchs, this is costing Russia a lot of money doing this. I mean, it's not good for business. And those guys are all about business. So I'm sure they are at least the ones who are comfortable enough that Putin's not going to put a bullet in the back of their head, at least not this week, that they're at least telling them, lad, man, this is not working for us here. We need to look for another option. But I'm not confident that, the rumors that Putin has floated that, well, the war's probably going to end soon. I wouldn't trust him very much to be a good faith negotiator there either.
Steve, Pakistan, has been a sometime ally of the United States, but I trust them about as far as I can throw them. When we found out that they were harboring Osama bin Laden, we learned that Iraq and Pakistan have cut deals to allow safe passage of 2 large crude carriers, and U.S. intelligence has said that Pakistan allowed Iran to use its bases for military aircraft. What's going on here with Pakistan?
Pakistan has a long history of trying to play both sides around them. Pakistan has beef with India, so they go to China and try and work with them. They had beef with Iran, so they came to us. They felt threatened by Al Qaeda, so they would help us. But at the same time, their ISI, their intel organization, was working hand in glove with Al Qaeda all through the war we were fighting in Afghanistan. So their entire system is kind of rife with people that play fast and loose with what you and I would think about, honorable service and that sort of thing. So they're trying to do that again. and I'm sure China has encouraged them to do it to try and help out the Iranians. I think we should probably send a note to the Pakistanis and say, hey, look, we appreciate you trying to work on the peace, but if those airplanes that belong to the Iranians stay there more than a week, we're going to destroy them all. And then see how tight the Pakistanis are with the Iranians when that starts. But you have to watch them. They can be pretty adept at trying to work on both ends of the spectrum.
And that is Steve Bucci, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation, heritage.org, and on X, S. Bucci. Steve, thank you as always for your insight, my friend, and have a great weekend, and we'll speak with you again next Thursday.
Sounds good. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Steve.
441, Chris's Corner. The Fauci story just got bigger and much darker. I'll tell you all about that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A nice evening, but let's watch for some scattered storms in the morning, low 58 degrees, and then a high of 83 in the afternoon. The storm chances are mainly in the morning. Can't rule out a spot shower late in the day, but really mainly a dry afternoon and evening. 83 for the high and a little bit more muggy as well. Saturday, you notice the humidity and some off and on storms in the morning to afternoon and a high of 85. Sunday's the dry, hot day, a high of 90 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion.
Since 1964, Royal Banks of Missouri has been proud to be your local community bank. They serve St. Louis, St. Charles, Southern Illinois, and Northeast Missouri. And, you know, what I love about Royal Banks is this. They've got that hometown feel, but they also make banking incredibly convenient. Their local team is ready to partner with you at any stage of your financial journey, whether you're just getting started or planning your next big move. And here's the game changer. Their interactive teller machines, no more rushing to beat bank hours. You can connect with a real Royal Banks employee, even in the evenings and on Saturdays, whether it's a deposit, a payment, or just getting help. It's simple, secure, and you're still talking to a real person you can trust. That's the difference with a true community bank. Visit royalbanksofmo.com to find out more and see a ITM near you and learn more. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities, one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The Laborers International Union of North America, Local 110, was formed in 1933 and from the beginning has strived for progress and the well-being of others. The laborers of Local 110 are hardworking men and women who take pride in their great work. They are the fastest growing union of construction workers and one of the most effective unions representing plants and quarries. Laborers Local 110 has the best medical benefits, pension, education, and heavy construction training in the market. Visit lu110.com and start your future today.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
When the storm hits and a tree comes down, you need someone you can trust right now. OLI Outdoor Services in Godfrey is on call 24/7 for emergency tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and land clearing. Serving Illinois and Missouri with licensed, insured professionals and over 200 years of combined experience. Tree removal starting at just $2.99. Free estimates, plus financing. Visit OLIOutdoorServices.com or call 1-888-5-SAWING.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Chris's Corner, brought to you by the Dental Link on Manchester and Baldwin or at dentallink.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
A CIA analyst has offered testimony that Dr. Anthony Fauci deliberately misled medical experts, government investigators, and the broader public regarding the likelihood that COVID-19 came from a lab. That analyst, James Erdman III, was subpoenaed by Senator Rand Paul and testified before a Senate committee yesterday. He revealed that Fauci forced the government to change its initial assessment of COVID's origins from lab leak to neutral.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
The Fauci story just got bigger and much darker. Remember when I said a few weeks ago in my April 28th Chris's Corner, will Fauci and his circle finally be held accountable? I speculated that the indictment of Fauci advisor David Behrens might be the first crack in the wall. Well, the wall just took another hit because now a CIA whistleblower is alleging something explosive, that the effort to shape and possibly suppress the truth about COVID's origins wasn't accidental, it was intentional. According to sworn Senate testimony from longtime CIA officer James Erdman, Dr. Anthony Fauci allegedly influenced the intelligence community's COVID origin investigation by steering analysts toward a hand-picked circle of experts, many of whom had financial ties, professional ties, or decades-long relationships connected to Fauci and his world. And if these allegations are true, this goes far beyond following the science. This becomes narrative management, influence, institutional protection, and possibly the weaponization of government power to control what Americans were allowed to believe. Now think about this. For years, Americans who questioned the lab leak theory were mocked, censored, shadow banned, called conspiracy theorists. Social media platforms cracked down on discussion. Media outlets dismissed it. Government officials acted like the debate was closed. But, according to this whistleblower, inside the intelligence community, there were analysts supporting the lab leak hypothesis, and they were allegedly retaliated against, not debated, not proven, disproven, punished. And here's the part that should send chills down your spine. The whistleblower alleges that CIA officials illegally monitored investigators and whistleblowers during the probe. Americans spied on while trying to investigate the origins of a pandemic that changed the world. Let that sink in. And suddenly the question changes. This is no longer simply, did COVID come from a lab? The bigger question now is, did powerful institutions coordinate to prevent the American people from finding out? Because this story keeps revealing the same pattern. A closed circle of experts, conflicts of interest, government-funded research, narrative control, back-channel communications, and aggressive efforts to silence dissent. That's why this matters beyond Fauci himself. This is about whether modern America still has functioning oversight. Because of intelligence agencies, public health bureaucracies, scientific institutions, media organizations, and big tech platforms all moved in the same direction at the same time to shape public perception, then we're looking at something far bigger than one pandemic. We're looking at a system that became too interconnected to question itself. And here's something else worth remembering. The same people who insisted the lab leak was irresponsible speculation are now saying, well, maybe it's possible. No apology, no accountability, no acknowledgement of what happened to people who've raised legitimate concerns early. Just a quiet rewriting of history. That's why this whistleblower testimony matters, because sunlight is finally reaching places that operated in darkness for years. And notice what Erdman called for, a modern-day church committee. For younger listeners, the original church committee is the 1970s exposed abuses by the CIA, FBI, the NSA, and other agencies spying on Americans and operating without oversight. That comparison is not minor. That is a career intelligence officer essentially saying we may have a systemic accountability problem once again. And that brings us back to the question I asked on April 28th. Will anyone at the top actually be held accountable, or will lower-level figures take the fall while the institutions themselves survive untouched? Because Americans can handle the truth. What destroys trust is the feeling that powerful people believe they have the right to manage the truth for everyone else. And if that's what happened here, then COVID didn't just expose the virus, it exposed a crisis of institutional trust that may take a generation to repair. And that is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And it's a shame that this accountability, if you can call it that, is coming 6+ years after the fact, and nobody in the legacy media is giving this a second of coverage.
And I was listening to Vic and Ken this morning, and I had forgotten all about this. President Joe Biden, on his way out, pardoned Fauci. So
that's right.
So, Fauci may skate clean out of this. People under him may be charged with hiding and shredding evidence and documents, but Fauci got a pardon, so he may never really be held accountable.
So the auto pen forgot about all the underlings, right, Chris? The auto pen.
Well, that's
didn't
how
know.
it usually goes, though. The top person gets off, and everyone else has to fall on the sword and take the pain and punishment.
Because nobody really probably thought about all the underlings and all the deputy staffers and all that such and so forth. And so now there's a few of them that are being held up for examination. And Fauci, like you said, is nowhere to be found, not coming to any of his friends' aid.
Yeah,
so.
And he has been hiding under his rock. You haven't heard
where
anything.
Where is this guy?
You would think with someone who spent 40+ years in government and had this quote-unquote celebrated career that he'd be out giving commencement speeches, would be all over the place. He is enjoying a very quiet retirement for some reason.
Yeah, you'd think he'd I think didn't he pop up briefly at a couple of college commencement speeches?
He did Wash U.
Right. And then since then, I have heard hide nor hair of him. I wonder if he's thinking, I got away with like the biggest crime of the century.
No, say what it is. He got away with murder.
Yeah, he did.
Because a lot of these people, a lot of million people around the world died.
And I am just going to never be heard from again. I think that's what he's probably thinking. I'm going to get while the getting's good. Not going to tempt fate. I don't want to do anything new that would subject me to further examination. Because remember, Chris, pardons are backwards looking. So if he were to say anything now or do anything, then that he could potentially open the door for an examination of himself. And so I think you're right. I think he's just like, I know nothing. I see nothing. I never knew anything.
The three monkeys come to view here. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
And has everyone forgot? Of course, everyone's forgot. Well, none of our listeners have, but the legacy media has. Remember we went through a painstaking examination of the shell companies that he had set up. Paladin or Palantir or something like that. There was an organization that was set up. There was a series of shell companies. They were all doing work in China, in Wuhan, at the lab, and suddenly he's like, "What lab in Wuhan?
Yeah.
I've never heard of such a lab in Wuhan, dude. You were funding the research there." And he acted like he'd never heard of it. There's no way it would have come from there. And he tried really hard, too hard, to divert attention from the Wuhan lab where they were working on the coronaviruses.
And the biggest question that I have that will probably never get an answer is, why was the National Institutes of Health, the United States government, funding a research, gain-of-function research with our enemy, the Chinese government, to basically develop a very powerful bioweapon?
Yeah,
why? What interest did both of our nations have to be working together on
so we
that?
could all kill each other? I mean, you got to wonder, right?
Exactly.
What happens if that gets weaponized? I mean, we have they're going to have to come up with some more science fiction movies, because all the science fiction movies are becoming science fact now with the rise of AI, such and so forth. And I'll never forget, I know he's a big lib, but he had a moment of clarity when Jon Stewart did that riff on the coronavirus lab. It was hilarious, and it was true. And I think he did it on Colbert's show. And Colbert was looking at him like, why are you attacking Tony Fauci?
Yeah.
You know, couldn't believe it. Well, Jon Stewart had a moment of sanity and brilliance, and it was one of the funniest bits ever.
Little news, Tim, on the income tax phase out. I know one of your buddy in the legal profession, Chuck Hatfield, the Democrat super lawyer, has filed a suit saying that the ballot initiative is unconstitutional. He is saying that it has more than one subject of it, and they're claiming that it improperly expands the role of the state auditor by requiring the office to calculate reduced tax rates triggered by the amendment. I know you haven't a chance to read the lawsuit or anything, but just what I have read to you, what do you think of the merits of this suit?
Not surprised at all. How does he make that argument? Well, I know how he makes that argument. Chuck Hatfield is a hack lawyer, and if he wants to call into the show so I can debate him, I'll be happy to. Chris, the guy,
I would love that. We should try to set that up.
Remember the reproductive freedom, the bad Amendment 3? Yeah. Chuck Hatfield, with a straight face, argued that did not have multiple subjects in it when it had a bazillion subjects in it, and somehow this very simple tax cut elimination proposal, which is all about phasing out Missouri's income tax, somehow that has multiple things. Chuck Hatfield is a liberal attorney's dream. And Chris, here's the problem. Until we fix our IP process, Chuck Hatfield is going to continue to make millions of dollars off of the Republican General Assembly until the cows come home.
He is their super lawyer. I would love to set that up. I wish he would come on the show. I would grab a bag of popcorn. I would love to see you two debate this. All right, we've got the Speaker's Stump Speech coming up.
Yes, America yearns for the simple things.
And then we'll have Larry Behrens, Director of Communications at the Power of the Future. He'll be in studio with us to talk about data centers. 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com. Hey, Columbo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding, because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump's trip to China has yielded positive results.
At a banquet later in the day Thursday, President Xi said he and Trump had in-depth communication and said we both believe that the China-U.S. relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. We must make it work and never mess it up. President Trump extended an invitation to Xi.
It is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. and we look forward to it.
Trump is hoping China will buy more U.S. agricultural products and passenger planes. He's expected to leave Beijing midday Friday, following a final private meeting with Xi. I'm Donna Warder.
Senators will now go without pay during future shutdowns in a bid to instill the same pain on lawmakers that federal workers have felt several times in recent months. Correspondent Bernie Bennett has more.
The upper chamber unanimously passed a resolution to prevent senators from being paid in the event of a shutdown, in a move that could thwart further closures by making the consequences real for lawmakers. Louisiana Republican John Kennedy, who pushed the measure, argued that preventing lawmakers from collecting a paycheck was a, quote, shared sacrifice after tens of thousands of federal employees went without any pay during the 2 shutdowns that have happened since last year. Kennedy's resolution, which applies only to senators, would direct the Secretary of the Senate to withhold lawmakers' pay until the shutdown is resolved. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
The head of the U.S. Border Patrol has announced his resignation. Michael Banks's decision is the latest leadership shakeup of officials implementing President Trump's immigration crackdown. Records set on Wall Street today, all positive. The Dow up by 370 points. The Nasdaq rose 232. The S&P advanced 56. More at Town Hall.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven you can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted, it works, it's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A nice evening, but let's watch for some scattered storms in the morning, low 58 degrees, and then a high of 83 in the afternoon. The storm chances are mainly in the morning. Can't rule out a spot shower late in the day, but really mainly a dry afternoon and evening. 83 for the high and a little bit more muggy as well. Saturday, you notice the humidity and some off and on storms in the morning to afternoon and a high of 85. Sunday's the dry, hot day, a high of 90 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL, brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo, and it's tough to pick, but my favorite sandwich at Capriotti's is the cheesesteak with a side of Cap's awesome fries. Visit Capriotti's now at 2 locations on Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Your workout tomorrow starts tonight. Your focus at work starts tonight. Your patience with your family starts tonight. Sleep isn't the end of your day, it's the beginning of your life. At Snooze Mattress and Wellness, we're locally owned and family owned, and we use advanced technology to help you find a mattress designed for deep, restorative sleep. Because this isn't about furniture, it's about waking up renewed. Snooze Mattress and Wellness in Chesterfield. Sleep restored, life renewed.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
They wanted to close up the strait again, as they've been doing for years, and they can't blackmail us.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
In 18 months, Bacadeno Rodriguez racked up 5 arrests and 23 charges, requiring him to spend the rest of his life in the Virginia Department of Corrections. But Mr. Toscano's policies prohibited that. It stated that his deputies must make plea officers that avoid the legislatively mandated minimum jail sentence. So a criminal alien was free to abduct a sleeping little girl. Somehow this parents' worst nightmare, in the words of Judge Randy Bellows, got worse when Mr. Toscano gave the kidnapper a plea deal for less than 2 years in prison. An outraged Judge Bellows rejected the plea agreement, saying the only way to protect the community is a lengthy period of incarceration.
That was the president of Virginians for Safe Communities testifying before Congress, Chris, about the latest, most horrific case and the new infamous addition to the leftist progressive prosecutor hall of I shouldn't say of fame, of horror, I guess, this Steve Toscano character.
Mm-hmm.
He is the attorney for Fairfax County. And he basically, if I listened to a bunch more of the testimony, he basically has a process and procedure in place where criminal illegal aliens are either released back on the streets as quickly as possible or given a little slap on the wrist and then released on the streets as quickly as possible. And one of these characters, if you listen to that whole clip, the gentleman there describes the long rap sheet of the particular perpetrator they're talking about. Multiple crimes, multiple convictions, multiple situations of horror. And then he breaks into someone's house and kidnaps their toddler right out of their bed.
Tim, I have heard in the past reform ideas that these judges that give these light sentences and the criminal goes out and commits some heinous crime, that they could somehow be held criminally liable for this. Is there any can you do something like that, or is the only option is if they're elected to just vote them out?
I mean, judges can be impeached. In this situation, though, and yes, we've had a lot of notorious judges.
Yeah.
In this situation, and we didn't play the whole clip there, but the gentleman talks about the times that this defendant was in and out. And Chris, actually, in this situation, the judges tried to give the guy a harsher, or it was the prosecuting attorney who was giving these sweetheart plea agreements, and the judges were saying, no, that's ridiculous, that's not good enough. So, but for the prosecutor, your question's valid as well, because what do you do? What do you do with a elected or appointed prosecutor? You either don't reelect them, or I guess if they're appointed, then you try to impeach them one way or the other, or you recall them or impeach them. There's not a lot of other. There's such a wide, and look, in most situations, most people who go into law enforcement have the intention to enforce the law, right? And our justice system has been turned upside down and on its head, because it seems like you have these community activists now who have suddenly become prosecutors and judges. Yeah. And our system doesn't envision that, right? It envisions people in law enforcement that want to enforce the law. And so what happens when it's turned upside down on the head? And we experienced here in St. Louis.
Oh, Kim Gardner.
For many years. And when do you hear about Gabe Gore in the news? You don't.
Yeah.
I guess he's doing his job. I guess he's prosecuting crime.
That's the way it should be.
You know? And so we only hear about it when it becomes a horrific tragedy. And so you're right. I mean, maybe legislatures need to look at other ways. When you suddenly end up with a prosecutor who is not prosecuting criminals and offering them ridiculous plea bargains, or you end up with a judge who is not fulfilling the proper sentencing requirements, maybe there needs to be some sort of mechanism to remove them from office before they hurt more of their communities.
Yeah, and, I don't want to fault the judge who maybe was fooled by a defendant and felt that this person deserved a second chance in life and gave them a lighter sentence than what was called for, and the person later went out and committed a crime. But there are judges that have a history of giving light sentence
Absolutely.
after light sentence after light sentence, and you see over and over again where the people have gone out and just committed worse crimes than what they were originally charged with, and it's like there's got to be some type of accountability associated with that behavior.
And it's unconscionable when someone with a 5-page rap sheet comes before you and you give them a light sentence.
Yeah.
At some point, you throw the book at people, and what this Fairfax attorney is doing, district attorney, he is basically shielding these perpetrators from federal law enforcement and making sure that they stay one step ahead of ICE or DHS. This person should not be in this country, and he's still committing crimes.
Yeah.
And then you have a horrific tragedy. And a lot of times by the time that we're reporting on some horrific tragedy, this is after a long list of things that someone has done that should have taken them out of this country a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's another one right behind you. There's a woman testifying on Capitol Hill about her daughter that she lost in her daughter's death. And I'm presuming that's a similar situation to what we're talking about here.
And every Democrat that calls for open borders or contributes to bail funds for criminals or illegal aliens, they all have those people's blood on their hands.
Yeah. What happened to Every Life Matters?
Yeah.
That we were told by Democrats back in the COVID era, when if you dared to walk outside without your mask on, you were accused of being a heinous criminal. And now we have real heinous criminals roaming the streets of the Commonwealth of Virginia, a state that none of us ever used to think was like a horrific place to live, work, or raise a family, but it's become that.
Yeah, it's very close to D.C.
Yeah.
You know, the hell whole D.C. has become.
Yeah, and
not
Trump,
recently.
Trump's cleaned it up, but he can't, Donald Trump's not going to be here forever. And whoever the president is, they can't go into all 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be cooperation, right?
Exactly.
And it's interesting indeed. So anyway, that was that. Speaker stump speech in just a moment. Let me get pulled up here what I was going to talk about on that. Basically, Americans yearning for a simpler time. And I was inspired to relate to you this particular Speaker stump speech today because it's connected to our next guest. Our next guest, who at 5:25 will join us, Larry Behrens, Director of Communications at Power of the Future. This piece that I found was written by the founder of his organization that he works for, Power of the Future, by Daniel Turner. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. Today's Speaker stump speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Writing.
You ask your.
Go right ahead, Joey. Sorry.
You ask yourself, why did Maine go from a state that did not have a serious fraud problem to one where I can honestly say it's one of the worst states in the union? And I'll give you two answers and two politicians. Number one is Janet Mills, and number two is Joe Biden. And thankfully, one of them has already been kicked to the curb, and one is on her way out the door, exactly as it should be.
Yeah, why is all of this being uncovered now? I am sure that if we go back through the annals of history, we will see certain periods of time in the United States of America where there were instances of people uncovering massive amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse in government. But this seems to have reached a crescendo and an epic level of waste, fraud, and abuse. One state alone, Minnesota, which has a smaller population than the state of Missouri, over $9 billion of fraud was just uncovered in that one state alone. J.D. Vance was with Dr. Oz up in Maine. They were talking about the billions of dollars in Maine. They said a state that never used to have these issues. Maine's always been kind of a purplish state. Sometimes it trends more blue. Sometimes it trends a little more red, but generally a purplish state. But it never used to have these kind of problems, and all of a sudden it does as well. Well, that's because there was an explosion of money that was sent forth by the Biden-Harris administration of trillions of dollars back during the COVID years. Meanwhile, all of us normal Americans in normal America are toiling away every single day, and then every April 15th sending our pittance into the government for taxes. Well, it's not a pittance. Many people think, the government wants it from us, of course. Daniel Turner, who is the founder, CEO of Power of the Future, wrote an interesting piece on a different subject, talking about this kind of general concept of how everything has become so much more unbelievably complex in life, and yet we have and yet Americans are always yearning for simpler times. The piece is, our government comes after us with armed men if we don't pay our taxes. Daniel says, I wonder if those who read my stuff here regularly get the impression I'm a dark person. I'm actually not. I'm actually pretty joyful and smiley. And we've had him on our show, and he is a very happy warrior. Like most Americans, I'm aware that some of my recent articles have been a little angry. I do not get angry. I do get angry, especially when things don't have to be like this. So much of what is expensive, cumbersome, or an infringement on our rights is so much of what makes life difficult is due to people with a self-serving agenda. We have too many people whose life entails butting into the lives of others, the Democratic Party of today's world. Leave people alone, and they tend to be okay, and they'll even be happy. My work, Daniel says, takes me to the most rural parts of the nation, from the North Slope of Alaska to small towns in Louisiana, and something I see in every state. I've been to 46 out of the 50. Americans are actually quite happy on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, we complain about gas prices and taxes and the weather, but we're also very grounded, stable, kind, and normal out here in normal America. I'd even say Americans are simple, but I don't mean that as an insult. I say it in the way that a great cheeseburger is simple. Simple in the way that Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is just actually a few notes. Simple is good. Watch a show on TV called My Lottery Dream House. It's about people who win the lottery and go hunting for a dream home. You probably figured that out from the title. But I marvel at what constitutes their dream. 1,800 square feet in Toledo for about $245,000, a split level in Chattanooga near a park, a deck off the kitchen, a screen porch. This is not lifestyles of the rich and famous. Americans are simple. I can't watch the show too often. The host is so in your face, uncomfortably aggressive, that it exceeds my capacity. I wonder if I should just be wearing protection. But back to simple. The show is an insight into how average Americans actually are. Here are people who don't win gigantic lotteries. They're not winning the multi-bazillion dollar Powerballs, but they're winning decent 6 or 7 figure sums. So they're not necessarily looking for heated driveways and limestone wine vaults. They just want a good old-fashioned, comfortable American home. Every American home. Simple is good. This beautiful quality in most Americans is what makes the ongoing fraud investigations, that's why I played that first clip, happening nationwide so much more egregious. It doesn't have to be this way, but bad people with an agenda make it so. A White House official recently posted something that makes you want to grab your rhetorical torch and pitchfork. In one state, 14,000 people driving luxury vehicles, all on government food stamps. Yeah, they're buying Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Porsches, and Maseratis with stolen taxpayer funds. And it's happening every single year, totaling over billions of dollars, maybe even approaching higher sums, under the guise of setting up these NGOs to help the poor or uncover voter fraud, or to help people vote, et cetera, and so forth. The fraud offsets any good the program itself pretends to do. There was tens of billions of dollars in daycare center fraud in Minnesota. Remember the Leering Center? And hospice fraud in California. One guy, here's a specific example, in Columbus, Ohio, allegedly operated 288 Medicaid companies and billed the government for over $250 million a year. Guess what? None of the companies actually existed, and none of the billing was for anything. The entire thing was a fraud. Can you imagine taking $250 million of our money? The total failure of government in this regard is at such an offensive level that it makes one want to go crazy. How can our government be so criminally negligent or complicit? Who looked at these applications? Did anyone do any due diligence? Who confirmed the monthly billing and the invoices? Who wrote the checks? And how are people not tarred and feathered at this point because of all of this? Well, because you and I both know our same government comes after us individual Americans, and our small paychecks if we don't pay our taxes that they require. Many of us have been audited, some for political reasons, and it's not fun. IRS agents and their scrutiny with implications of malfeasance and illusions of criminal prosecution. And yet, that same government, the one that goes after us for a few $100 here or $1,000 there, is indifferent to the rampant theft of billions of taxpayer dollars going on in entire states. It's the stuff of manifestos. It almost sounds like a dark comedic joke, but yet it's absolutely real. All of this fraud does hurt people. It hurts tax-paying Americans, the average Americans, the ones who are yearning for that simple life that I just mentioned. All of this is so preventable, yet it seems so deliberate. That you wonder if us simple Americans, us average Americans, that we're the ones that are the butt of every joke, and that the people who sit in the ivory and marble halls of Washington, D.C. are just laughing at all of us. How can we not be angry? I guess that's why I wrote down my own manifesto. And that wasn't a joke. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
We just had a massive fraud case here in St. Louis. You remember the woman, Connie Bobo?
Yes.
She stole money, $19.7 million from an FDA program that was supposed to feed low-income children. Tim, she took that money. She spent $1 million on a mansion in St. Charles. She bought multiple homes for relatives. She bought real estate investments, luxury goods, and she gave a large payment to her boyfriend so he could buy a Mercedes G-Wagon.
It's amazing.
$19.7 million.
Yeah. And yet, if let's take, I'll just throw out a random number. You got an average family of four. Let's say both parents work their butts off full time. Let's say the family makes $100,000 all in. Boy, forget to send in a tax return or forget to dot an I or cross a T, and they're after you for that couple $1,000 that you better pay the federal government. But yet, Chris, we have examples of tens of millions and tens of billions of dollars of fraud that goes undetected for years. I'm glad we're actually hearing that they're busting some of these people, but how in the world does it go on this long? Like, is anybody watching the hen house?
Yeah, and these people, when they do get behind on their tax bills, the government, of course, charges interest, and I think that interest accrues daily.
Mm-hmm. And then the IRS agents show up with guns drawn.
Exactly.
You know?
At 6 in the morning.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, we're going to speak with Larry Behrens of the aforementioned Power of the Future next. We're going to completely shift the subject, and we're going to talk about AI, America's tech future, and yes, even those data centers. Who is funding the campaign to oppose them? The answer might surprise you. Larry will break it all down and explain it to us next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A nice evening, but let's watch for some scattered storms in the morning, low 58 degrees, and then a high of 83 in the afternoon. The storm chances are mainly in the morning. Can't rule out a spot shower late in the day, but really mainly a dry afternoon and evening, 83 for the high and a little bit more muggy as well. Saturday, you notice the humidity and some off and on storms in the morning to afternoon and a high of 85. Sunday's the dry, hot day, a high of 90 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Mother's Day is almost here, and Anthony's Produce has everything you need to make it special. We're blooming this season with locally grown flowers, gorgeous hanging baskets, colorful bedding plants, and stunning flowering pots. Plus, our huge selection of rare tropical plants is sure to impress. And don't forget Mom's sweet side. Treat her to a fresh fruit bouquet or indulgent chocolate-covered strawberries. Our shelves are stocked with the best produce in town, too. Anthony's Produce, open 7 days a week, 7 to 5, on Jungerman Road or at anthonysproduce.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet. I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
St. Louis County Executive Sam Page wants to update the county's zoning ordinance on future data centers.
With the technology, data centers are needed to run the digital world. And we are not anti-technology, but we are responsible with the environment. We must respect our neighbors and we must be open and honest with the public.
The plan currently being discussed by the Planning Committee focuses on infrastructure and water uses along with neighborhood compatibility.
Chris, I'm not sure you want Sam Page being your spokesperson for anything these days, whether you like it or not.
Look, Sam Page is just there waiting for his term to end since he's not running for re-election. So I wouldn't put any stock in anything he says.
Indeed. Well, we've got a guy we can put stock into. We're going to talk about those nefarious data centers, and we're going to talk about tech and America's AI future and more with Larry Behrens, who we have in studio with us today after all these years. Larry, thanks for joining us.
You guys let me in the door.
Yes.
Your security's lacking if I'm getting in the door. It's so great to be here with you.
Indeed. Larry is the Director of Communications for Power the Future, powerthefuture.com, a great trade association that works in the energy sector and works with the American energy worker. Larry, before we dive into all the specifics of the hot topic du jour of data centers themselves, maybe we should do a little history, right? So my understanding from the research I've been doing a lot on this subject, and I do some consulting for different groups that are interested in America owning its AI and tech future, and we understand that a lot of that has to be housed in data centers. Data centers have actually been with us for a very long time, right? Why are they becoming so controversial now?
That's a great point. And, you know, I worked in the governor's office in another state where we brought in a Facebook data center and everyone loved it. Everyone was happy about it. And this was 15 years ago. It was a while ago. And there was no controversy for it. And you talk about water. This was in the middle of the desert. So we understand the needs of water and what, you know, how important it is. And so the reason it's become the most controversial is because the left has lost on their climate whining. They saw what Joe Biden did. They don't want the free subscription anymore of the Green New Deal. And so they need a new cause du jour. And so what they've decided is, hey, we can really, really sink our teeth into it. And I understand. I've seen communities where the pushback is legitimate and the questions are legitimate. But that is not as what's being pushed here. And I think when you take a look at it, you need to equate it to, we all remember Keystone Dakota Access Pipelines and how we were told these were the biggest environmental disasters that were going to come upon the land in the history of ever. we saw the movement against those wasn't really organic, wasn't really grassroots, and that's what we're seeing now at data centers.
Larry, what I think a lot of people don't seem to realize is one, AI is here. That genie is out of the bottle. But more importantly, this is a national and economic security issue. We cannot let China win the AI race. Talk about the importance of that.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I mean, I know everyone likes to see, the gentleman Spencer Pratt running for mayor in LA makes great AI videos, and that's what everyone thinks it does, and that's great. It does do that, but it is also key to our military, to our industrial complex, and to a whole lot of national defense and intelligence efforts. And so, it not only it's that. I mean, we say this in our report. Imagine if, when we were in the race to the moon, there was groups, propping up to say we're against rocket technology. We don't need to be building rockets here. And I'm sure there were those groups, but there was a national interest in going to space and in going to the moon. There was a national interest in building the atomic bomb before your enemy did. And so when we look at what could be and what probably will be the defining technology of the next 30, 40 years, then yes, the United States needs to be the one who wins it first and is in charge of that technology. Because if we're not, authoritarian regimes will be.
Larry is referring to the new report that Power of the Future has recently published. Power of the Future uncovers billionaire-funded campaign to sabotage America's AI and technology boom. And what you found, Larry, was the billionaires that are funding this are on the left. And so I don't think any of us are saying, yeah, let's put data centers everywhere, and we don't care how much energy they use, and we don't care what they do to the water supply. No, we want them, of course, properly regulated. We have some folks on from the Show Me Institute who often say, and you shouldn't be giving them any kind of tax credits or tax abatement because they can afford this on their own. But what you're saying is, because the left has lost so much credibility on the Green New Deal and their climate craziness, that they're the ones basically saying it's kind of an extension of their other attacks on other American energy things, right? Like, they don't want us using American coal and American natural gas and America fracking. They want us buying solar panels and windmills from China, just like here. They don't want American ingenuity, American AI, American tech, and America data centers. Is that the argument?
Yeah, you just said it better than I could myself. And when we look at it, I've been fighting this fight for a long time now, and I'm always astounded to see if someone wants to open a pump jack, those things that bounce up and down, pull oil out of the ground and pull natural gas out of the ground, or someone wants to mine coal, they will absolutely put a stop to it. They will find every excuse in the book, endangered species, water, all to stop it here. But when it happens in China, who mines more coal than anyone, who burns more coal than anyone, they're perfectly happy with that. In fact, they're perfectly happy, and they'll tell you with the data centers, we just, the land use. Well, what if I want to plaster that land with solar panels from China? Well, they're perfectly fine with that. What if I want to take over this farmland to put my windmills? Well, for some reason, they're perfectly fine with that. And so when you look at their reasons for it, they're ever shifting, because it all just goes to the same point. They want America, to your point, to be at a disadvantage. Why can't we do it here in the United States? It is in our best interest to do it. It is our best interest to have our energy be self-sufficient, as China is finding out right now with the Strait of Hormuz. It is absolutely in our best interest to win the battle with AI, and that's exactly what it is.
Larry, my wife spent 25 years as an IT data manager, and she doesn't understand the hysteria regarding data centers, because she's like, we've always had data centers. One of the things that people seem to be concerned about, of course, is water. And she's always said that that water can be recycled. It doesn't have to go into the ground. It doesn't have to use existing water supply. And also, people are concerned about the energy use of data centers. And we have now, where the military is talking about using many nuclear reactors to power things. Can those two things work for data centers, and can that dispel some of the fear that people have?
Absolutely. I think they can. Well, first of all, let's just put the water question to the side. There is absolutely innovation where they can do a closed loop system. I'm sure you guys have heard of that, where they don't bring in any new water. They just keep reusing the water that they have. And so it's not a drain, both literally and figuratively, on anyone's water resources. But President Trump, as I'm sure you all know, has brought a plan forth that says, if you're going to bring a data center onto the grid, then you need to bring your power source for your data center with it. And he got these tech companies to agree to that, which was a huge deal at the time. Of course, it didn't get a lot of coverage in the mainstream press, but that's a huge deal, because we need more power, period. Even if we never add another data center, starting from the time I finish this sentence, we are going to need more electricity. So for data centers to only to come online and also bring in their power source, that is a great opportunity for the United States. And folks don't talk about it, but during the Biden years, we lost 55 gigawatts of electricity in coal and natural gas because Joe Biden was happy to shut that down. For context, that can power about 40 million American homes. And so when I see the left get upset about water, then I say, well, tell you what, let's not call it a data center. Let's call the data center the cannabis farm. And then the left is perfectly fine with all the water you want to use.
Speaking with Larry Behrens of Power of the Future, talking about the brand new report that Power of the Future has available. It's right here on their website. I'm looking at it. Manufactured outrage, how national environmental activists are spending millions to elect Democrats, block data centers, and undermine President Trump's growth agenda. And Larry, it even goes further now as you all continue to dig into this. I saw another report that was breaking down the fact that it's actually now approaching billions of dollars, and it's not even just folks here in this country. It's people like George Soros, Hans-Jörg Wyss, all these names that you hear, all these leftist billionaires who don't live in the U.S., and they also attack our electoral systems. We fight them there. They attack our systems of immigration, right?
Yep.
And they support that. They support all these leftist causes we see that causes American cities to burn down. And so now they're like, well, we don't want America to control its energy future either, right? Is that the goal of all this, do you think?
Yeah, and I think it gets to the question of exactly how does that work. And you bring up Mr. Wyss. He is featured prominently in the report. And we went through the 990 form. So if you're a nonprofit, you have to file what's called a 990 with the IRS to disclose where your money's coming from. And we found that he has brought in $40 million to these groups. And what happens is the Sierra Club, which has a 501c3, a nonprofit sector, they take in that money, and then maybe it gets distributed to the Sierra Club Action Fund, which then is more political. And then it gets submitted to the Sierra Club attorneys, which then sue to stop data centers. And then there's, I'm sure, some money that goes to making signs and so forth. And then what you see is he gets to say, look at this money that I'm giving to these nonprofits for environmentalists. And it is, he couldn't donate as a foreign citizen to any political campaign as a foreigner, but yet he's allowed to donate to these environmental groups. And then the environmental groups are allowed to dole out the money. And that's what we're seeing with data centers. And so they find their cause du jour because that is where the money is right now. And so we didn't see a whole lot. I mean, Earth Day just passed not even a month ago. You didn't see a whole lot of protests, did you?
No.
But yet the data center protests seem to be getting really ramped up because I guess those, professional paid protester class has found a new boss to work for.
Larry, there is a sizable opposition, organized opposition on the left, but there's also a pretty sizable operation. I don't know if it's an operation, but grassroots on the right. Tim does a show on Saturday, St. Charles, Jeffco Rachel Radio, and somebody took a clip of Tim talking about data centers, and they're calling him a shill for corporate America and all that. And all the people that were objecting to this, these were pretty hardcore conservatives. There seems to be a lot of on the right that are against these data centers as well. They're not as organized, they're not having groups behind them, but there seems to be a grassroots opposition on the right against these data centers.
Yeah, and none of this puts aside the fact that there are legitimate questions to ask. If any big industry is coming to your town, asking those questions, where are you going to be, what exactly you're going to be doing, how is this going to affect, those are all legitimate questions to be asking. To anyone on the political right, I would say President Trump has made this a priority. President Trump has said this is a battle that we need to win with AI. He has brought the tech giants in to say we need to do this in a way that you bring your own power and it does not affect ratepayers, right? We don't want electric bills going up as a result of this. And to your point too, Tim, it was a fact of we're not going to be throwing our tax dollars at these as well. These are wholly free enterprise opportunities. And so, yes, a large building going up in your neighborhood or in your county is something to ask questions about and to look at. But, if it is, I dare say, if it's a big box store, people, for whatever reason, don't mind looking the other way. And so I would just say, give it a fair shake, ask the questions, the legitimate questions that you have, and then see if the opposition to it also happens to be the opposition that gave $150 million to Democrat candidates last year, because that's exactly what these environmental groups did.
Larry, what does a large modern data center look like these days? And secondarily, and I think this is discussed in your report as well, or maybe a different one I saw, what kind of economic positive impact can a data center have on a community?
Yeah, well, we mentioned the power, and that can be a good one because we have a huge appetite for power in the United States, and it's only going to go up. But that aside, talking about the economic benefits, and these groups have a substantial impact on it. So far, they have blocked $98 billion in potential economic impact, and that's just in Virginia. And so when they stop, a data center here and a data center there, it actually ramps up or it stops a lot of economic impact. But to your point, it looks like, and folks have seen the pictures, they are large computing centers. They do use a lot of energy. They do need to stay cool. However, there are jobs to be made, not as many as constructing it. The biggest jobs are in construction of it, but there are jobs to be had for the maintaining and running of it as well. And so it can be a boon to a community in that way. And I would argue too, these come from the tech world, which is not known for being crazily on the political right. And so they are very conscious about, where we get their energy from and what they do. And so those are all questions that folks need to be asked. But generally speaking, large building does require more energy than a comparable industrial building its size, although not much more. And then there is opportunity for jobs there. And I'm not going to say, it's a ton of jobs when it's running. Most of the jobs are in the construction and initial part of it, and then fewer as it goes on.
Mm-hmm. Most of the proposed data centers are out in rural areas and Republican areas. What would you say to those folks to get them on board, per se, or convince them that we need this and this is good for jobs?
Well, they would have to decide on their county by county basis, right? I don't want to put one right over the Missouri River. And so, and I don't think anyone's arguing for that. However, I would argue that if they are fans of capitalism and free enterprise, take a look at what this will be doing for your community. Will it help property taxes for your schools? Will it help taxes for public safety? Will there be extra costs with it as well in terms of infrastructure? I mean, these are all legitimate questions to ask. What we get worked up about at Power of the Future is when we see the Sierra Club write one, anti-data center moratorium in New York, and then all of a sudden there's 230 groups that have signed this letter, and then they use that as the template to just say we're going to ban them across the board and kneecap ourselves as a country in this technology that's going to define the future. There is opportunity. I'll be upfront. I grew up in New Mexico. There is more than a little nuclear technology that went there. There is nuclear waste disposal that goes on there. And because the state is very well suited for it, very rural, very open, desert. And I can tell you, I have been down in a cave 1,000 feet under the ground where they store nuclear waste, and the people there are grateful for the jobs and grateful for the opportunities. Now, if you were to ask them, would you like nuclear waste stored? No. But in the community, when it's done right and done in a healthy way, then absolutely it can be done. And I'm not equating the two. I'm just saying that the left can make a boogeyman out of anything if they want to with their friends in the media. And so it's on us to be watching what is the truth.
Larry, what about urban areas like the city of St. Louis, which used to have over 800,000 people, and now it has below 300,000 people? Tons of empty space, tons of big, giant brick and concrete buildings where I would presume if you could put a data center in, nobody may even knew it was there. Can you put data centers in urban areas too, like St. Louis, which is in much need of new development?
Absolutely. I think you can put them really anywhere. The footprint of it, the space that it takes up, is the part that people get worked up about. But you can also build up if there is opportunity to do that. And so, multiple floors, most of them I don't believe are built that way, but they could go in that direction. And there is, again, opportunity. So we can have it set, vacant and empty and continue to be an eyesore in the community, or there could be an opportunity for jobs and rehabilitation and a tax base that is money literally coming from outside the community being put into the community.
And that's what the city of St. Louis is trying to do. There's a big development called the Foundry that failed, and they're trying to use that space for a data center.
Yeah, and it's always fascinating. You guys have seen them. I've seen them. You'll have politicians on the left and right that show up when farmland's been taken over. I don't know how many acres for a solar panel field, and they'll smile and they'll cut the ribbon and everything's great because they look at the potential. There's not going to be any new jobs of that. There's some jobs when it's set up and then it's done, and it's only going to last maybe 20 years. This is something that is much more sustainable, because that's the word the left likes to use. It's much more sustainable than that opportunity.
Fascinating indeed. That's Larry Behrens, Director of Communications with Power of the Future, powerofthefuture.com. Check out the new report at powerofthefuture.com. leftist billionaire, funded campaign to sabotage America's AI and technology boom. And Larry, I believe we're going to feature you on Sunday's edition of Jeffco Patriot Radio as well.
As long as I didn't mess this up, did I? I'll be okay.
You passed the first test.
All right.
Yes,
all right.
indeed.
I'm looking forward to it.
Chris and I will be back. Larry, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
you very much. When Chris and I come back, Chris is going to tell us about the new effort to just tell people to shut up and act.
Shut up and act.
All when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show before we hand you off to Larry Connors USA. That's next here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A nice evening, but let's watch for some scattered storms in the morning, low 58 degrees, and then a high of 83 in the afternoon. The storm chances are mainly in the morning. Can't rule out a spot shower late in the day, but really mainly a dry afternoon and evening, 83 for the high and a little bit more muggy as well. Saturday, you notice the humidity and some off and on storms in the morning to afternoon and a high of 85. Sunday's the dry, hot day, a high of 90 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Jamie Allman here. Tossing and turning over retirement worries? You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
A bill that would require age verification for users of adult websites is now on its way to Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. The Missouri House took a final vote on this proposal this morning, and it would require porn sites to use third-party companies to verify users. The proposal also says those same companies are not allowed to store information about user data. Websites that violate the law would face steep fines for each violation, which could add up to $250,000 if a minor accesses sexual material.
5:48 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Enjoy, was it just a coincidence that you played the song Dirty Laundry when we're talking about pornography sites?
Now, Chris knows which websites aren't banned, so just text him or email him, and I'll tell you, Pornhub isn't all that's out there. I mean, he knows all of them.
I will tell you about it for a fee. All right. Teased at the beginning of the show, a very popular Hollywood celebrity who is on a popular television show right now basically told his fellow actors to just shut up and act.
Landman star Billy Bob Thornton was recently on Howie Mandel's podcast, and he shared his thoughts on politically active celebrities. Take a look.
I don't know anything about politics. I have no idea. I mean, and the stuff that I believe about it, I don't want to force it down somebody else's throat because I'm not an expert on that.
I think when you have a platform, that means you have an outsized voice. And when you have a platform, I think that you have a responsibility to speak up about what's going on in this country. In my view, silence is complicity.
And every minute.
But Billy Bob just said, I don't know anything about politics. So even though you have a platform, you're supposed to talk about something you know absolutely nothing about. And because you're a celebrity, you may influence people on things that you know absolutely nothing about. That doesn't make sense to me, Tim.
Chris, don't you know it's not about tolerance and acceptance anymore. It's about being forced to tell a specific narrative. And if you don't toe the line and tell the narrative of the current intelligentsia, well, then you're either racist or xenophobic, or you hate white, black, brown, purple, or green people, or whatever, right? You have to toe the line on telling the narrative.
And that was very refreshing from Billy Bob
That was
Thornton.
cool.
He just says, I don't know anything about politics. I don't feel it's my place to be telling people about something that I know nothing about. My art is I'm an actor. That's what I do. That's what people want to see from me, is me acting in a successful program or in a successful movie. They don't care what my politics is. You know, Gene Simmons of KISS has said that. I've seen videos of him where a reporter was asking him who he voted for and asking him about his political views, and he went off on him. He said, it's none of your damn business who I voted for. I'm a celebrity. I'm a rock star. No one cares how I vote. That's none of your business. You know, it's refreshing to hear somebody know their lane, as they say.
It's because, look, the minute Billy Bob starts talking about political things, if he says something that the View doesn't agree with, well, then they're going to want to cancel him.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, I'm not playing your game. You know, I mean, this idea that because you look a certain way or come from a certain ethnicity or you're a certain religion, that therefore you must toe the line on a certain political preference or affiliation, that's called tyranny. That's tyranny over the mind of man, something that Thomas Jefferson said he would always be opposed to. It's just it's ridiculous that these people want to they now it's gotten to the point where you can't even be quiet, right?
Yeah,
they
right.
want to force you to say certain things a certain way.
And I think we can surmise, because Gene Simmons of KISS, I think he leans to the right. I think maybe the reason why Billy Bob Thornton doesn't want to say anything, because maybe he leans to the right as well, and he likes acting in Hollywood and doesn't want to be blackballed. So I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself.
I haven't seen Landman yet, but if
I want to.
But if he's got, I've heard he plays the main character really well. The main character is definitely a hardcore capitalist, and so maybe Billy Bob's like, man, maybe just watch my art. That's where I express myself.
Tim, you probably know this, but Grover Norquist's Americans for Tax Reform is launching a new $1 million ad campaign against the Railroad Safety Act. The seven-figure buy includes TV, streaming, social media, and podcasts, arguing that the bill would raise prices. The TV spots also seek to tie the effort to labor unions, saying it's about payoffs to union bosses. So we should be seeing some information there from the Americans for Tax Reform on this bill coming out. And Pope Leo, speaking of AI, Pope Leo the 14th is expected to sign his first encyclical positioning AI as the defining moral and labor challenge of a new industrial revolution. The document reportedly is called Magnifica Humanitas. Did I say that Latin right?
Good enough.
And will focus, that means magnificent humanity. It will focus specifically on AI's impact on, quote, people and working conditions. The Magnifica Humanitas will argue technology must remain subordinate to the human person, not the reverse, and that AI systems should protect workers' creativity and moral agency. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's what it should be.
I've seen The Matrix, you know? And Terminator and all that. So, yeah, you wonder. I hope we don't ever enter a dystopian America where mankind is subservient to the machine.
I hope not as well. You know, I have given my thoughts many times here on gambling. I think it's the worst thing in the world that has happened to sports. You can't turn on a game now without seeing some type of gambling ad. Joey is getting slowly rich off of that, but that's a whole other issue. He's in the gambling markets. But Tim, a UCLA study found bankruptcy and debt collection rose in states that legalized sports betting. Wow, imagine that. With young men in low-income areas hit the hardest, more than half of American men age 18 to 49 have an account with an online sports book. That's per a Siena poll. 63% of bettors say they'd bet $100 or more in one day. 31% reported having someone express concern about their sports betting. That's up from 23% last year. So, sports betting.
It's ubiquitous, unfortunately. And we've made it too easy for people to part with their money.
You know, we talk about John Fetterman. Everybody wants him to convert to a Republican or switch parties. He says he would make a terrible Republican. That
I would
he
agree
doesn't
with
want to. I agree, too, that he will not switch. But the president told Sean Hannity recently, because Sean Hannity had Mr. Fetterman on his show, the president tell him he's going to run as a Republican. He's going to have our full support, more money than he ever dreamed of, and he's going to win big.
Really?
So President Trump urging Fetterman to switch parties. A February Quinnipiac University poll, Tim, found that 46% of Pennsylvania voters approve of Fetterman's performance, 40% disapproving, so he's on the positive side there. The party breakdown is fascinating. Fetterman is up 73 to 18% among Republicans. Republicans love him, while underwater 22 to 62% among Democrats.
I kind of like him where he is as a Democrat, right? Because then, Chris, we can say, look, there's one sane Democrat. The rest of you Democrats should be more like him. I don't think he's a conservative. I don't think he's a Republican. I kind of like the fact to me, he's an old school Democrat. He is a 80s, 90s Democrat.
And I heard our own Susie Moore the other day. She had a good analysis on why Fetterman won't switch parties, because right now he's in the catbird seat.
You got it.
Republicans want you, Democrats want you. You are probably the deciding vote on a lot of these issues. So why would he want to give up that power? Because if he becomes a Republican, you'll never see him on the news anymore because he won't have any leverage.
Joe Manchin became one of the most powerful men in Washington, D.C. and built a 30, 40-year career off of that same exact political attitude.
Tim, here's something that's ironic. Psychedelics and prostitution are legal in Amsterdam, as we all know. I remember my mother went over there and was in a cafe, and there was weed smoke everywhere, and she was like, wow, this is crazy. But a Dutch city has just banned all advertisements for meat in public spaces. They say eating meat contributes to climate change, so you will not see any meat ads in a Dutch city.
So weed and prostitution and psychedelics are fine, but don't eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah. We'll not see any meat. You know, they'll have bare breasts and in the train substations and everywhere. But
everybody's shooting up.
But you cannot have a meat ad.
God forbid you have a slider.
Absolutely horrible. All right. That is the conclusion of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Up next, Larry Connor's USA. Today, Israel was recognized as a Jewish state back in 1948. Larry will have all the information on that. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free and home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or STL Windows and Doors.